It's time for us to talk about security again, and this is in the light of the report you just saw, which is the fact that the president has launched a national security strategy. Well, it was a review of the 2014-2015 document that, according to the National Security Advisor, didn't quite address the peculiar challenges that the traditional security apparatus were dealing with, even though the armed forces was also doing their bit to be a part of it. So there's some new thinking along the line of how to deal with these issues, and that is why we have a couple of gentlemen in the studio with us this morning who will be taking a look at some of these issues along with us. We have with us in the studio a former director of the DSS, Dennis Amakri. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. As well as retired Lieutenant Commander Johanna Danjuma, ex-Nigerian Navy intelligence officer. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. So, first of all, let me ask you, you were in the military. Sorry about that, sir. Have we been able to, before now, were we able to understand before now the peculiar challenges of the security issues we were having?
That's a tough question because terrorism, for example, is evolving. If you want to approach the solution to terrorism with the knowledge of pure military knowledge, you are likely to run into trouble. Being an ideological war, you need to have a two-pronged approach. One, the mindset of the people who are terrorists, for them to have taken up this desire even at the expense of their lives, is really something very strong.
So you're saying we didn't factor that in the first place?
I think we didn't, to the extent that now we are bringing people and saying that they have been, what's the word? What's that word we use when we bring them out of terrorism?
Rehabilitated. Rehabilitate them.
No, not rehabilitate, but I will de-radicalize, that they have been de-radicalized. How do you measure de-radicalization? How do you tell that someone has had a 180-degree change, because you have captured the person and kept the person under different conditions, then all of a sudden, because the person may be pretending, all of a sudden, so for me, we really need to understand that.
But the military, forgive me for butting in, the military has released hundreds back into society who have been, as you said, de-radicalized. What are you saying by that?
With a great deal of doubt in my mind that there is a system for you to determine that someone who has been captured or someone who has passed through maybe some pains. It's very easy when you're hungry to have a change of mind. But deep down, the core of you, may still be, it's like saying, well, I may be standing up or I may be kneeling down, but in my mind, I'm standing up. So they say, he who is convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. How do you break down that kind of person? How do you convince the person? So for me, we really have not understood the way we should that terrorism or a terrorist never, ever changes his mind. That is particularly. Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're asking for them to conduct perhaps a lie detector test on them and be sure, are you de-radicalized?
Or even a psychic test.
Something like that. But I understand that this is work in progress. And I know that there are peculiarities of the Northeast. I believe you're an expert in that, which, some things we see and then a lot of things happen behind the scenes that we might not be able to really, put those things together. But you started by saying that we didn't exactly understand how to approach this with the soft mechanism. I think you started by saying that we went hard. So
Yes.
are you saying that we didn't balance the hard with the soft approach such that we should have said, what is behind this ideology? Why are people picking up the arms? Is that what you're trying to say?
Thank you for that leading question. You know, the situation is that when people are poor, it's very easy to convince them that this is the way to take. With very little education, with very little food in the stomach, and with some religious teaching, you have a bomb. They say the most dangerous person is he who has nothing to protect. So for me, the fight is ongoing, but we are not making the right moves. You know, the right move is to ensure that there is a change in the physical setting. You know, people need food to eat. People need the basic things of life, and unless they get it, they are not going to listen to you.
Okay, so let's bring in Mr. Makri for a moment now. I'm sure you feel much better now. Okay, now let's talk about the national security strategy just for a moment, because I want us to understand how we can apply this to our discussion this morning, perhaps a little bit. What is a security strategy?
Well, I think it's a redo of the 2014 National Security Strategy. It's like a policy guideline that is going to be used to build where we are going. And for this particular one, you know, what they've actually done is to identify those threat areas, the threat areas where the country is facing different kinds of threats, as you know. Of course, we're talking about kidnapping for one, militancy, and then, of course, banditry. And then, of course, you have these new ones like fake news and hate news or hate speech.
As kidnapping, banditry?
No, not at all. No, not at all. Okay. You know, it's a list.
All right.
It's a list of threats that the country is facing. Farmers and pastoralists, farmers and herders clash. All those things are what this national security strategy is designed to address. You know, and right now what they're doing is look for ways and means by also involving the stakeholders. You know, and the very good thing about this particular one is that they are moving from the state-centric security approach to human-centric, you know, security approach.
I think that needs to be decrypted.
I will explain. Okay.
I think that needs to be decrypted because, in a way, it will probably help to maybe factor in some of the issues that Commander Danjuma raised, which is the fact that if previous security strategies were depersonalized, is that in any way buttressing what he said about the individuals not being factored in?
No, one thing is that I think what I understand from what he was saying was that the threat area was not fully defined, you know, if I'm correct. You know, it was not defined, you know, and whereby we were fighting different, you know, sectors of a battle, and right now, what this document have done is to group all of them together, list them out, and then try to profile solutions to how to solve them. You know, and that will help in our national interest, because that is, I think, the ultimate aim to see, because we've not actually, as a country, defined what our national interest is. But this particular document is trying to define that by saying that our national interest is, number one, the sovereignty of Nigeria, the territorial integrity of Nigeria, and the welfare of the Nigerians. So when you look at it, that's why they are saying that it's a human-centric kind of security approach. All the security, right? You know, we're just coming out from a military regime. We've had many years of military regime, and
we've had 20 years of unbroken democracy.
Yeah, I know. But remember that our constitution, the one we are now even practicing, is military written for us, you know. And
some will still argue with you that the military, you know, had to come up with a committee made of lawyers who are not.
But you know that the final approval of those documents were done by military men.
Okay.
And right now you can see that even right now it's being operated by military guys. You know, the president is a former military man. You know, even the national security advisor is a former military man. So I am very happy that at least they are shifting away from the military centric, you know, which is state security, or should I say regime protection, to human security, which is for the Nigerian citizens.
Okay. Do you see this addressing some of the issues that you raised, this people-centric approach to security as opposed to state-centric?
You know, the biggest mistake any country can make is to think that people can be secure where there is a great deal of poverty. It was the great, the late President, J.F. Kennedy, that said, if the masses are poor, if you fail to provide for the many who are poor, you cannot protect the few that are rich. It is a threat to national security if there is great economic inequality. We have that. There is no stability when you see the wide disparity. In Nigeria, for example, you have the richest black man, and paradoxically, you have the largest concentration of the poor in the world. It shows that there is something fundamentally wrong with the way the affairs are run. Secondly, it also says that it is a threat to national security for you to have a political system that excludes people. If you check between 1999 and today, what we have is just a group of people that have been going around from one of the major parties to the other. What is needed is to open up the political space so that people with ideas, you know, can come in. For today, if you don't have people who have very deep pockets backing you, no matter how brilliant your ideas, like Obama, you cannot come in. And that being the case, since it is closed, and those who are there realize that the only way you can really benefit is when you are in government, when you are in power, and they have closed it, it is going to be very difficult, you know, to solve the economic issue if you don't at least work on the economy and work on the politics.
So it's a multifaceted approach for you.
Yep.
Now, let's try to demystify this. I was going through a 2018 nationwide poll that said that about 65% of Nigerians don't feel the nation is secure. It's an NOI poll, and that speaks volumes, basically saying about 7 out of 10 Nigerians believe that security is a major challenge. There's terrorism in the Northeast, there's kidnapping, armed robbery. Just yesterday, or 2 days ago, I heard about a lady in Lagos who was mugged, and she eventually died. Walking on the road, and she died because someone was trying to mug her and the person stabbed her. Now, this is something you would always hear Nigerians speak about. Everybody has their experience. So the big question is, how do we bring all these strategies to bear and ensure that these challenges all around the nation are solved, perhaps in their peculiar ways? And I think that's a lot, that's a major part of the questions Nigerians have this morning. How can we bring that to bear?
Yeah, you know, it is a situation where Nigerians actually feel very insecure. It's an insecurity problem. Even when this government came into power, you know, remember the three pillars in which they came in, you know, security, fighting security, insecurity, corruption, and of course, economic growth. So you find out that we are in a quandary where that security issue still lives with us. And bringing this particular document to life, is a very good idea, but I think there is still more work to do on it, because when you look at it, a lot of countries do have their own national security strategies or national intelligence strategy, whereby it gives direction to government, And for us to bring up this thing, number one, the government have to be ready to take advice. The government have to be ready to take advice, because you have to involve all the stakeholders. And when we say stakeholders in security, you are talking of SSS, you are talking of police, army, intelligence, NIA, all of them, Federal Road Safety Corps, National Defense Corps, all of them. They make up the intelligence community.
Which raises the question or the issue that a number of people have raised over time, especially during election period. Well, yes, the president also talked about the fact that everyone involved should see themselves as partners.
Yes.
He talked about partnership. And this is not the first time the president has talked about partnership in his government. He's talked about partnership with federal and state government and all. He has talked about partnership in this context, at this launch, at this presentation,
yes,
for all security apparatus to partner. We have had this discussion
yes,
on this, Mr. Makri, where partnership among security forces, police, army, navy, air force, NSCDC, and the rest of them, has always been an issue. How do you see this going?
Well, even the president himself mentioned it in his speech,
Yes,
where he said that there is an intelligence fusion center in Maiduguri, but that is for the military joint task force, MJTF. That is a multinational task force that is working there. What we require is a fusion center. A fusion center is a conglomeration of all the security agencies coming together, I think being organized by the National Security Advisor, leading that very idea, where all of them will come in and then share information. Now, before, what we used to have was silos, where everybody was doing their own and reporting to the president, and sometimes trying to, individually, and trying to even curry favor from him that, it is us that did it, not these other people, okay? But if we have a fusion center, which is going to bring in like a clearinghouse of all the intelligence that we are getting from different areas, because it is not just intelligence about criminals. You also get intelligence about diplomatic intelligence, of course, food intelligence, how does banditry affect our food situation? How does closing the border affect our food situation for Christmas? These are intelligence information that are necessary, and they will come together and they will give it to the president to make a decision.
Well, I think that's why we have an intelligence. Well, you are an intelligence person as well, but he does that quite a bit. How do you see this? First, let's talk about that partnership. How do you see that partnership working among all these because every single one of them have sort of different kinds of training, so to speak. Well, you know better than I do.
This is a universal problem. After the 9/11 attacks, it was discovered that they couldn't, connect the dots, for the simple reason that the different organizations had the knowledge that there would be an attack. But if they had coordinated, they would have been able to have a better idea about what was impending. Unfortunately, they didn't until it happened. So the number one lesson that they learned then was, look, this need-to-know basis that we are overemphasizing, because it is one of the maxims that you don't share information, you only share information on the basis of need to know. It was thereafter that the need to share, became upheld. So, if you go online, be surprised that the amount of information that you get from the CIA, FBI, it's just there. Their budget is there, it. What they are going to spend it is there. But here, we hoard a lot of information that we don't even need to hide. So this dearth of information now, we've carried it to the extent that it becomes a disadvantage. So it's very important for me. It is the leader now that would de-emphasize, individualism.
Well, how do you see that playing out? Because, on the one hand, the police will have their ground. On the other hand, the military will have their ground and all of that. And that's gone on for way too long, to the disadvantage of the ultimate objective of securing the nation.
Which is why I said, if you as a leader, it's the direction you give, right, that determines the outcome. If what you emphasize is teamwork, if the leaders of the different agencies, get to see you as not going to praise any individual or any agency singly, but you encourage cooperation among the agencies, among the different arms of service, then I think you are likely to get the result that you need.
I think the president mentioned that this was, the coming together of a lot of agencies, security agencies, and he tried to emphasize the fact that if you work together to get this done, then you have to work together to achieve it, or at least to make sure the strategy works. So I think that's perhaps a key point to raise here. But then the National Security Advisor mentioned something, and I'd like you to respond to it, Mr. Makri. Now, he said that the issue of insecurity in the country is directly tied to international influence.
Yeah.
That means two things for a lot of people, but how does that hit you? Before I bring in the angles.
Well, the thing is that we don't live in isolation, right now we live in a global village, actually. And, of course, it was also mentioned, there are international parts of the threat that we face. Number one, ISIS has been defeated. And when they have been defeated, all their people have scattered, and some of them are hunting around for new jobs. They become soldiers of fortune. We have the Islamic West Africa province people who are running around and, waxing stronger in West Africa. These are all international threats that we are facing, that are going to come, And then, of course, we have proliferation of arms. Small arms and light weapons are big problem. And these are things that will affect us, because if our borders are still porous, and I believe strongly that one of the strategies will be for us to check our borders.
And I think from what we have also heard, the border closure is a critical element in this national security strategy that's just been launched. But we'll explore that, as well as the economic angles that's been raised, in a little bit when we come back. Please stay with us. We're still with Mr. Dennis Amakri, former DSS director, as well as Lieutenant Commander John Danjuma, retired, former Navy intelligence. Thank you, gentlemen, for staying with us. Now, let's go to the different angles of this. We're talking about the part of the elements of this conversation is the border closure.
Yes.
And you gentlemen, you are saying that is in favor or not in favor of security?
What I am saying is that the closure is good. If you're closing, it's like closing down your shop to renovate, right? If you close down and then you renovate and then come up with a new idea or a new process or system. Our borders had been very, very, very uncontrolled, ungoverned. It was a free-for-all. And therefore, Nigeria, which is the largest black country in the world, everybody comes here. Many, many people who are not even citizens of this country are walking around in the country, working or doing all kinds of businesses. So, close it down, check those loopholes, and then, of course, come up with a system that will, especially for, like I was saying, the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. because that is also causing an internal security problem for everybody.
So that some would argue with you on that, because we have customs officials, immigration officers who are supposed to do the job of ensuring that small arms don't get into the country.
Do you know how many illegal borders we have in this country?
Then don't blame that on the smuggler. Blame that on our security
No.
operators.
You see, right now, like I said, you know, if you own a house and there are rats coming in from different angles, different holes in your house, yes, we can blame you because you are the owner of the house, but
Absolutely.
you have to do something about closing those holes, you know, whereby the rats are coming into your place. So it is very, very incumbent on us as a country, close down the border, check. Now that it's closed down, you know that they are still smuggling into the country, you know.
Even through caskets.
Exactly, everywhere, you know. So look at this thing again. Use technology. Because it's not just human. You cannot hold hands and cover up those thousands of kilometers around the country. So use technology, leverage on it to, you know, monitor the borders like anybody else.
Okay. Lieutenant.
My views are diametrically opposed to his.
Okay.
You know, to do to yourself in peacetime what the enemy seeks to do to you in times of war is what we are doing. There is no way that what is it that causes stroke? It's blood clot, blood not getting to your brain. What is it that causes heart attack? It's blood not being pumped out or getting to your heart. How can you, on God's earth, block the borders?
What is wrong with blocking the borders? You heard him.
What
Small
you
arms
do,
in the country.
what you seek to do in the military, what you seek to do to bring down your enemy. How was the Civil War won and lost? It was by blocking the supplies of the other side. How did the apartheid system in South Africa, how was it brought down? It was by squeezing their supplies.
You're saying the same thing.
But apparently, pardon me,
Yes.
the idea also is that some of the things that come in are available in the country. So it's not as though you are shutting
Or
your
can be
supply.
produced.
Can be
Can be
produced.
produced.
So you're
no.
blocking the entire...
The foolishness there is this.
Oh, that's very strong.
Why should I be forced? If your idea has to be forced in the first place, that means that your idea is not sound. Why must I be forced to buy at a higher rate? I could go across the border and buy at 5,000, but I'm now forced to buy it at 20,000. A bag of rice, for example.
To the economy's detriment, apparently.
Who?
You know-
Who are you? That is the mistake Nigerians are making. Who is collecting the money? Who is paying? It is from the pocket of the Nigerian person.
You know, if you check the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, you see this casket containing jerry cans. And apparently, what reports say is that Nigeria has actually been subsidizing fuel for other countries. Don't you think that's to the country's detriment?
Oh, you see, the biggest mistake is for you not to understand this simple economics.
So,
which is that if I buy a product at 5,000 naira, you know, I have the balance. Supposing my salary was 30,000, and I had the option of buying a bag of rice across the border for 5,000 or within Nigeria for 20,000, which leaves me with more money in my pocket.
no, that's on an individual basis. Now,
That
there's
is
the
because
micro
economics-
and the macro.
Economics, actually, the word economics, OICO, stands for household. Nomos stands for administration. The economy is judged based on what it does to the household.
You know, maybe we should stick to security.
And that is why it is very important for you to see the link between security and economics. If you don't get your economics right, you're going to get
it is very clear.
You are going to get a system that is topsy-turvy.
Let's stick with the economics.
Okay.
Part of the security strategy is to lift
Yes.
the livelihood
Economic
of people.
growth.
Economic growth.
Yes.
How do you see that occurring here?
You see, someone rightly
Because,
said...
sorry, quick one. Federal government, especially the president, has repeatedly talked about collaboration among various stakeholders, the states, security apparatus, federal government, ministries, and all of that. It'll be interesting to see how that will work out to help those who want to get out of insecurity, of terrorism, to have something else, some alternatives that they can fall back to.
You see, it is very difficult to see that when you close the borders, the people that benefit, who are the rice millers, rice growers, for example, it's very easy to see that. What is not easy to see is what you have deprived other people from doing. If I have more money in my pocket, I'll be able to employ, to buy some things, maybe from a tailor, right? You know, let me just go straight to the point.
Yeah.
What is our area of comparative advantage? Does it not surprise you that we are closing the border to rice importation, and we are saying that it is to encourage the production of rice? Why don't we close our border, you know, to the importation of refined products? No. That is our area, please, that is our area of comparative advantage. Just imagine the situation where instead of buying fuel, for example, at 145 naira, you could buy fuel at 10 naira. Do you know that is a possibility? Why haven't we built our refineries for domestic production?
Hopefully that is one of the capital projects that government will take over. We wanted to quickly respond to.
Yes, you know, one thing, this, it might be voodoo economics, my friend Johanna is talking about here, because you have to look at the root causes and what is going on. Whenever we buy a bag of rice for like 9,000 naira, do you know who is gaining? All the rice growers in the foreign country, in Thailand or China or wherever it's coming from. Those are the people that are earning money.
That is the voodoo economics you are talking about.
It's voodoo, because
that
now
is the real voodoo you are talking.
No, because they are earning money, and we Nigerian farmers are losing. You know, so if we block them, our own farmers will raise their own. It might be expensive now because, and you know, even chicken, go and find out how much chicken is costing.
Many people think it is, Mr.
Yeah.
We really need to go over a very, very quick one, 30 seconds each. Are you hopeful that this new security strategy of the federal government will produce results that will give people hope within the shortest possible time? And if you do, within how long do you see?
I am very hopeful. I'm very positive that the new national security strategy for 2019 is going to work if we stay on top of it. Allow, you know, the stakeholders who are involved in it restructure the security system, because you cannot continue reviewing this based on colonial structures. Review the security structures so that the security people can be independent enough to work.
Okay.
You know,
are you hopeful?
Negative, because we are still doing the same thing and expecting different results.
Okay. Maybe
see how we blocked the importation of cement. It is now about 2007 from 600 naira. It has not gone down. See how we blocked the importation of chicken or poultry products. They have gone up. They have never gone down. If, as you say, we will open it, why don't we open it and see who will buy our cement? Nobody will buy our cement.
It's not just
nobody will buy our poultry.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation. Lieutenant Commander John Danjuma, of former Nigerian Navy Intelligence Officer, thank you so much, as well as Mr. Dennis Amakri, former DSS Director. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation. We're back in a moment to take on another issue. Please stay with us.